Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking about acceptance is peace, how conflicts are resolved when they're acknowledged. In a world characterized by diversity, conflicts and differences will come about. But in between these conflicts, there is something that you can work on, and that is the power of acceptance, in which accepting conflict can provide you a roadmap to peace. Because once you accept that you're in conflict, then other parts of your mind can be disengaged, and ultimately provide a blueprint to a peaceful resolution. As I reflect over recent insights over conflict, I know that holding conflict is not good for you. And depending on the situation, it can have a really big detrimental impact onto your life. And ultimately, conflict is unproductive to everyone. While resolving conflicts might not be in someone's immediate power, acceptance of that conflict is. And once you accept that conflict, then your intensity of the situation will lessen. And you're on some semblance of a path to peace, even if it's for yourself. So in today's video, I'm gonna talk about my background, why acceptance is peace, and my general thoughts. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. Acceptance of a conflict can hold profound significance in your life and affect our interpersonal dynamics and our well-being. We don't always have a choice in what kind of conflicts we're in, but we can modulate our reaction to it. And ultimately, we can have a stake in how that conflict gets resolved. Conflict will eventually happen to you in your life, but there are ways to go about it better and mitigates the worst impacts on yourself and other people. And as much as I like to avoid it, sometimes I'm drawn into it. Those are the cases in which I have to assert myself or maintain my boundaries. During these times of conflict, sometimes the person can be reasoned with, other times not so much. For those that I can't reason with, I have to change to a different tactic. And that tactic is to bring peace within myself so I don't become consumed by it. It is through acceptance of conflict that I can bring about peace. Meaning that I accept the situation that I'm in and everything associated with it. It's an acknowledgement that you're in a turbulent situation with another person. Through this acceptance of conflict, now I can finally start a roadmap to peace. Because only through acceptance of the situation can you finally move on and not make it worse. So let's go through some of the reasons why acceptance of conflict can bring about peace. Why acceptance is peace. Number 1, freedom from conflict of a situation is a key factor in de-escalating conflict. By refraining to escalate the situation and pull yourself back, you can be on a road to peace. And it gives you a more conducive atmosphere to find different solutions to resolve that conflict. When one embraces the reality of conflict, then you can take a step back and look at it from another person's perspective. And that inner resentment and toil begins to dissipate slowly. This can be a huge emotional release of pent-up anger and frustration towards that other person. And you could direct that energy to more constructive actions and positive interactions with that person. It is through acceptance of that circumstance that you can begin the healing process and ultimately provide you the freedom to move past that conflict. When I'm in the middle of a fight or conflict, it's hard to be rational. I'm too emotional. But when I take a step back and acknowledge the situation, I can think more clearly about it. I can start to be more aware of the situation and figure out what I need to do logically. It's really the first step to get out of that mindset where you want to retaliate towards the other person. Using that first step to put me on a path to positive or at least neutral standing. Through acceptance of conflict, I can start to feel back to normal and not just keep pace with the other person antagonizing me. This freedom is a crucial step to resolving conflict wherever it may take you. So you can start by freeing yourself from conflict by accepting that you're in conflict in the first place. Number 2, emotional resilience. Acceptance empowers individuals to build emotional resilience within themselves by acknowledging their feelings without additional judgment. This self-awareness allows for more balance and composure during challenging situations. Because when you're accepting of conflict, you're building emotional resilience for the future. You're more able to confront and process those feelings without succumbing to them. And the more you do it, the more emotional well-being you gain from acceptance. And through future conflicts, you'll be able to more rapidly accept that conflict. I've built this emotional resilience through years and years of conflict with other people. And this has helped me to build more self-awareness when I'm embroiled in conflict. It helps me to overall gain a perspective of how I'm reacting to other people and rein it back in when I'm too aggressive. The more I use it, the more I'm able to hold myself back from the worst aspects of conflict. I'm more stronger as a result and can maintain neutrality whenever conflict arises. A large part of acceptance of conflict is emotional maturity, and when we have a lot of experience with it, it's easier to deal with conflict neutrally. From there, you can work on a good foundation of moving through resolution of conflict. So when you're on the path to acceptance, emotional resilience builds within you, and you could use this to ultimately move towards peace with that other person. Number 3, conflict resolution. Accepting of conflict is a necessary step to resolving that conflict. When one or both people acknowledge that the conflict exists, then you can begin to resolve it. Because you're more open to dialogue with that other person as long as you both accept that you're in some sort of conflict. If you both don't recognize that you're in conflict with each other, then you might dig in your heels and go aggressive with each other. Acceptance of that conflict fosters the beginning of a resolution and shifts the focus ever so slightly so that you're both on a bit of neutral ground. I've never been able to resolve a conflict without first accepting of it, because sometimes when you're so emotionally compromised, you don't even realize you're in a conflict. You are just blinded by getting revenge on that other person without even thinking about what you're actually doing. This is a place that you have to transcend in order to resolve that conflict. Only when you take that step back and go back to neutral ground, then you can begin to move on. When I get to a place of peace within my own mind, I can start thinking about that conflict differently. I might try something different or even have a solution to resolve that conflict. Holding a conflict in your mind is not sustainable over time because it burns down your energy. And also, when you are on the path of acceptance, you slowly ease your mind to a more neutral stance. So for any conflict resolution, you need to accept that you're in conflict in the first place to bring about eventual peace. Number 4, personal growth and learning. Accepting the circumstances of a conflict can propel a person to personal growth and development, and helps foster a mindset of self-reflection and adaptability. Because when you accept that you're in a conflict, you start to think about how you got there in the first place, starting the self-reflection process. And you can learn valuable insights from yourself and others. And that conflict can transform into an opportunity of self-discovery. By acknowledging the situation, you understand your own motives for why you're in the conflict in the first place, leading to better emotional intelligence and self-awareness. And this can be a catalyst to learn more about yourself and future situations where you're challenged. When you first deal with conflict, you might not have all the tools at your disposal to resolve that conflict. But over time, as you gain more experience being in conflict, you'll start to figure out what works for you. With every conflict, I learn something about myself, my strengths and weaknesses. It is usually the weaknesses that I work on the most, finding out what I can do better the next time I'm in conflict. Whether it's better emotional regulation or just more patience, I always learn something from my conflicts. Acceptance of a conflict is ultimately growing from that situation. And we learn at the end of the day that no conflict is sustainable. At some point, we have to move on. This is a hard lesson to learn because I learned the hard way many times through conflict. I wanted to sustain that conflict forever with that other person, but that doesn't bring about peace in my life. And I ended up burning out of that conflict many times. After experiencing over and over, I realized that I just needed to accept that I'm in conflict and move on from it. We need to ultimately accept that conflict is a part of our life, and it's a crucial step in the path of growth and development. And it ultimately gives us the tools to better ourselves for the future when conflict will certainly arise. So here are my general thoughts on acceptance as peace. The goal of acceptance of conflict is to not necessarily resolve that conflict, but to create the possibility of peace within your own mind. When you're in conflict, you're in a fight or flight mode. You're not thinking clearly about that situation. And if you don't think clearly, you might worsen the situation for the long term. When you're able to regain clarity and accept that you're in conflict, then the process to resolving it starts. You can begin to ask yourself, what is the next step that you want to take in that conflict? And ultimately, that question will lead you down to a road of possible peace. Acceptance of conflict is not hard. It's not an easy path to take. For me, I hold on to frustration during conflict a lot longer than other people, and can take a lot longer to accept that I'm in conflict with that other person. I want to, at times, to keep that conflict up just to try to win it. But with more experience, I know that that is just a bad idea. I can't keep the stamina of conflict forever because it raises my stress and anxiety of that situation. It's harder to calm down from it. So I need to accept it and try to move on peacefully, or as much as I can in life when I'm in those conflict situations. So that's why I think acceptance is peace when you're in a conflict with someone. In the modern age, it's very easy to get dragged into conflicts, whether you started it or not. And these conflicts can spiral out of control if you're not aware of it. When we take a step back and realize and accept that we are in conflict, we can start to bridge the gap to peace and move forward with the possibility of a conflict resolution. In my life, I haven't been able to resolve a conflict without first accepting of it. It helped me to calm my mind and accept that this was a problem that I needed to figure out. Then and only then, I was able to shift my mind to solving that problem, because now I was calmer and thinking more clearly about that situation. So I hope I can help you to solve some conflicts that you're having in your own life. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on what are your thoughts on accepting conflict and has it helped you to resolve a conflict. And I'll see you next time.